Calling all educators, students, and space enthusiasts. The 2025 SmallSat Education Conference is where the future of space begins. Join us at the Kennedy Space Center for hands-on workshops, expert speakers, and industry networking, all focused on bringing SmallSat innovation into the classroom. Explore CubeSats, high-altitude balloon missions, and hands-on STEM workshops designed to launch the next generation of space explorers. Don't miss this chance to connect, learn, and innovate. Visit smallsateducation.org to register today. You can find a link in the show notes. Let's go to space, Blue Sky Learning, episode 144, AI Applications in Space Education. Today, Kevin and I meet with Daniel Portas Levy, a 10th grader at Florida Atlantic University High School, where he's also pursuing an undergraduate degree in mathematics. He's been part of the Wolfpack CubeSat Development Team since middle school, and Daniel brought that early interest along with him as he entered high school, joining their Aerospace team, where he is currently their software lead. His primary focus is on the applications of artificial intelligence and machine learning, particularly in space missions and aerospace education. He has shared his ideas with the scientific community at international conferences such as the Committee on Space Research, the Astrobiology Science Conference, and the American Institute for Aeronautics and Astronautics SciTech Conference. We look forward to catching up with Daniel and know that his work will inspire you to consider the future of AI and machine learning, particularly in space. Welcome, Daniel Portas Levy, or I should say welcome back. I mean, as we were just talking before we started recording today, you were one of our original, or at least under the first 100 number, episode 77, right? Back when you were in middle school. So excited to catch up with you. Before we get started with you filling us in with everything that's been going on since then, why don't you remind the audience a little bit about who you are?
Of course. I'm Daniel. I'm 15 years old right now, and I'm a 10th grader at Florida Atlantic University. We basically at Florida Atlantic, we are dual enrolled full time. So I'm actually a full time college student while I'm in high school, and I really enjoy it. I'm majoring in mathematics right now, and I'm also a member of the Wolfpack CubeSat Development Team and the Aerospace team at Florida Atlantic University, the Aerospace Experimental Association. I've been in the Wolfpack for about 5 years now, and I'm currently the software lead for the FAU CubeSat team. In my free time, I like to do things like study mathematics, and I also like to go mountain biking. I know there's not a lot of mountains in Florida, but make it work.
Right.
Very happy to
Interestingly,
be
the
here.
podcast prior to you was another FAU high school student as well. So FAU High is getting some good representation in the
Yeah.
past few weeks. That's awesome.
Yes, let's jump right in. You love math, you're excellent at coding, and I know we're eventually in the back half of our conversation today will be AI, but let's start with the easy questions. Tell us about what does it mean to be on a university team as a 10th grader and a 15-year-old 10th grader to be elected to software lead. Tell us about the software that you write, what it is used for, and tell us a little bit about the AXA team at Florida Atlantic University.
Yeah, of course. So I actually met the former president, Jake Pierman, at the SmallSat Education Conference when I was still in middle school, and that's about when I joined the team. So it was very kind of awkward at first to be the youngest member, but I mean they're all great people, so I made friends with everyone, and I really began to enjoy it. And basically the team is made up of mainly mechanical engineers, and so I was able to find a place where I could bring my programming skills and kind of apply it in a way that wasn't done before. And I was able to help them with their software. I was able to help them get their cameras running, help them with their code. And my help with their missions was eventually what got me elected as software lead. So it was really exciting for me. Um, so the kind of code that I write, I mainly focus on the payload code. We have a microcontroller that is intended to collect data from all our sensors, and in the future we will also be communicating with probably an Iridium network through a radio. We're currently working on that, and I also do help with the other systems such as the payload planning, communications, like GPS tracking. So that is what my work does.
Okay, well, what is the mission? First of all, what is AXA, and what is the mission that you are working on? What are you guys building?
Right now, we're actually working on a system that we're going to send into space. And essentially, what the system is going to do It's going to provide a test bed to grow plants and other living organisms in space. It's going to be pressurized, it's going to be temperature controlled, it's going to be moisture controlled, and it's going to allow us to make a more sustainable food production system for future space travel. And right now, we're sending up all our food through rockets to the ISS. It's not very economical, right? It costs a lot of money. So um, essentially, we're aiming to make a system to grow food in space and reduce that kind of transportation cost. Um,
A different kind of manufacturing.
Well, I want to kind
yeah,
of back up just a little bit because as you were talking, I was reminded that we also did a podcast episode with Jake Pierman. I think it was 97. But the reason I ask is so you kind of joined as soon as he was leaving, and I know he had kind of started it. So when you first got on the team, how what were some of those challenges that they were facing to where you are now? Like obviously, you must have contributed to some of that success in that amount of time.
yeah. I think what we gained in the past few years was a lot of experience. We started out with almost no experience, like no
I
FAU
remember
funding.
he
Like,
did say that. It was
yeah,
like it was only like a couple of people and they were all graduating.
yeah. And I think what I brought was first, I was younger, so I was going to stay there for a long time. I helped recruit a few new members from the high school too. And I think most importantly, I helped bring some variety. It was mostly mechanical engineers. So they were very good. They were very focused and had a very good mechanical structure for their CubeSat, but there were still opportunities to improve some other areas.
Right. The other subsystems, I guess, is what you guys call them,
Yeah.
right? So like those other
That,
areas.
Right.
yeah.
It's a great example of how if everybody thinks the same, you can't really build a satellite, right? Because you got
Yeah.
your coders, you got all the structural guys and the payload, et cetera.
Well, was there any kid? I mean, I'm thinking here you are high school students, right? And then you're on the college team. Was there any kind of like resistance from the university students to have high school kids on the team at first until they saw it, or is there still?
I mean, I was kind of expecting it, but actually, no, there wasn't. Because I think when they're really great people, and when you meet them and they get to know you, they don't really care so much about your age. It's more about what you can bring to the team. It's more just a collaboration and trying to reach the one main goal that we're all working towards of launching a
Right.
CubeSat.
So your competence overrode your youthfulness, right?
Yeah.
Being good at your job. Actually, that's a very good scenario, right? You want to be on a team where all that people care about is how good you are at your job.
Well, and I think too, like you mentioned, coming in young and that you're going to be there for a while, that's going to allow you to really build your portfolio in a way that maybe those who were only there for the university experience could not, because you can start research now or whatever it is that you're working on, and then you have a longer time to really
Mhm.
develop that, especially if you stay at FAU to pursue, your degree.
Absolutely. I mean, a university student would only get 4 years on the team if they were there for their whole university career. I mean, I've been there for 2 or 3 years now, and I still have more years at FAU, and I'm looking forward to it. So yeah, you're absolutely
Right.
right. It's a great advantage.
So is your aim to walk away from FAU with a high school diploma and an undergrad degree, or will you finish somewhere else?
Almost. So I'm not sure about finishing my bachelor's at FAU. I might transfer to a different university nearby. It really depends on how the credits work out. I can't really be sure right now, but um, I'm going to be very close to it when I do graduate high school. I might not have the degree, but I'll be at most 1 or 2 semesters away. So it's really just it's more of an economical choice than a like
Right. No,
yeah,
it
No, it
makes
makes
great sense.
sense.
You're getting a free
Plus,
undergrad.
you can
yeah,
continue, right? Not only that, I mean, that just gives you a
Right.
little bit more time to be able to
And
dabble.
you'll basically own the team, right?
yeah.
You'll have so much history there.
Yeah.
One of our former Wolfpack students, whom you know really well, Yasmin, she did 2 years, I think, at FAU, and then she finished at UF. And she is our first Wolfpack kid that's actually working in aerospace. So you've got a great pathway ahead of you, it seems like. Let me pivot just a minute slightly. What is FAU like as a university, and what kind of classes are you taking as a 10th grade high school student at the FAU high school?
So FAU as a university, I think it's a very different place from what you'd expect as a high school. You can learn whatever you want at any depth you want, and that's initially what attracted me to FAU. So I'm taking classes mainly mathematics, like Calc 3 differential equations that probably wouldn't be offered at a normal high school, simply because I love the subject and it's very interesting. As a high school student, I really enjoy the opportunity to learn. focusing on mathematics especially, I get to learn it much deeper than I think I would be able to anywhere else. And there are also classes that definitely wouldn't be offered anywhere else. I'm taking number theory right now. Um, yeah, it's very interesting, and I love the opportunity to be able to do this.
So can you divide by zero yet?
Well, yeah, I guess so.
All right.
I guess that's a joke that the non-math people are supposed to
Yeah,
like
you
chortle
can't
at. I
divide by
don't.
zero.
I
It's sort of
mean,
like
it's zero.
it's the first
Yeah.
word you learn.
I mean,
It's
I was like, wait a
undefined.
minute, why don't I mean I'm going at zero?
Yeah, you
Okay.
can't make nothing go into something.
Okay,
Yeah.
well, for the rest of us, slow down the roll on the math humor. I want to pivot a little bit to Wolfpack for a second. So you have so many different roles, and you're leading in many different ways, not just at FAU, but also on the Wolfpack team. Tell us a little bit about your role on the team, and how that's kind of morphed over time.
So I started out at the Wolfpack, just kind of trying to learn as much as I could, participating. I wrote a few papers when I was younger in middle school, and I've kind of continued this. Recently, I presented at the Committee on Space Research in Korea. I presented on an application of AI and video games in education, and another one of my passion areas in the software development and game development. Um, I tend to focus more on artificial intelligence and AI, sharing ideas and research at conferences. I
Right.
want to make a change in education through aerospace, and I think that AI software is a great tool to do that. So that's primarily what I'm focusing on now. I've also done my another recent project that I did was a game development project for the National Science Foundation. I got a group of students together, and we actually developed a game to submit to their competition, and we're currently waiting on those results. So hopefully that does well
Okay.
too.
So cool.
Yeah,
That's so
now you
cool.
mentioned you made a game, but the truth is it was the little more detail is it was about how to build a CubeSat, right? Could you elaborate on that?
So the CubeSat game essentially we aim to take classroom STEM concepts and put them into a much more digestible format for students. So rather than sitting through lectures and trying to take notes, they'll be playing on a simulation, trying to build a CubeSat. They'll have mini games like the electrical mini game where they have to wire things. And in the process, they will learn positive and negative, they will learn resistance based on experience and based on short lessons that will give them the background information that they need. And I think that this experiential learning format is very useful for students, especially those who aren't very well suited for a traditional classroom. So a lot of people can learn better that way. So I think giving them the option and the opportunity to learn these things, and also at a very accessible uh, cost, by the way, since it's a fully digital solution, all you need is a computer. But I think giving people the opportunity to learn aerospace and STEM in a very digestible and entertaining format will allow more people to come to STEM fields, replenish our workforce as they retire and gray out, and get a lot of high-paying jobs in places like aerospace, where we're currently missing people to do work.
Well,
So
and
I
I
think
think
it's
this
a
is
great solution.
an area that's kind of lacking, right? Because I
Yeah.
mean, I think about aviation, we have simulators, right? We have all of these things that kind of simulate the experience. And sure, in Wolfpack, you can actually build, if you're lucky enough to have your proposal selected, some kind of payload and all of that. And that isn't hands-on, but most students don't have access to that. Through the gamification of it, it seems to me like that's an area that has been really lacking in aerospace. So congratulations on getting that done. Are you also working on one of the CubeSats through coding for currently? Like, in addition, I know you're doing like coding in general with games as a passion, but are you working on one of the current CubeSats with the Wolfpack?
I did contribute a little bit to WolfSat 1. I haven't been
So,
super active in these projects because I've been so busy with my
no, but I
kind of
know that, but
ridiculous
you've been
semester. Yeah,
instrumental, yeah, in part of them, and at
yeah.
least like, so was it for what part did you play in that? Just so that everyone understands how diverse you are. Like, I mean, your skill set is quite vast.
I have helped them a little bit with their software. I did help a long time ago when they were first starting to get out. Like I said, I haven't been able to really help a lot recently because of all my classes. But
No, no,
yeah,
no. I'm just wanting everyone, our listeners, to hear how you have taken the things that you're interested in and found ways to make them actually like real world, right? So I know when you mention experiential learning, not all of our listeners might understand that, but you've taken your educational background and your passion and you've applied it in many different ways. So that's all I was really trying to let them
Right.
know.
And of course, I'm aware that your AXA, Aerospace Experimental Association, correct? That's the acronym. Your AXA, which is the AIAA, American Institute of Aeronautics and Astronautics College chapter at FAU. We know that you were selected last year for the University Nanosatellite Program through NASA, was it, or AFRL, Air Force Research Labs. And there you got a lot of experience or you got a lot of guidance on developing your satellite. How big is your CubeSat going to be? And what sort of timeline are you hoping to have before you launch? And this will be FAU's first satellite, right? The first satellite
Yeah.
that the university launches. Tell us what your thinking is about the timeline. Maybe is it, what are some of the hard items you've got to get accomplished, like funding or the ride, things like that?
Yeah, so we're looking at a 12U CubeSat, and the reason for that is the plant system is actually very large, and it needs to accommodate a certain number of plants. It needs to be a certain size. It needs to be properly accommodated in the CubeSat in order to have room for all of our other subsystems. As a result of this large size, funding is something that we're working on. So in terms of an exact timeline, I'm not sure if we're quite there yet due to funding,
Right.
but we're looking at somewhere a few years down the line. We're also
Yeah.
considering possibly a 1U mission before our 12U mission to give our team more CubeSat experience and make sure that they're ready to take on such a huge project.
Yeah.
But
Really
yeah,
good
we're still in
idea.
the early stages.
Right. And that's a 12U for our listeners. There's no way you're going to get that out the door for less than probably $1 million.
Well, because you normally do 1U, right?
Yeah, 1U. Yeah.
So that's times, so it's like 12 of those
It won't be
stacked
12
up.
times as expensive, but it'll definitely be over $1 million.
Well, I'm just thinking 12
Maybe
times the
2 million.
size. So I'm trying to imagine like that six,
Oh,
like two, or 2 by
12U
6.
is a 12U is like half the size of a college fridge. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
That's heavy.
it's like a pretty good sized suitcase.
Hmm.
So, and it'll probably have a mass of, let's see, 12 U's is what's that going to be, like 30 pounds, almost 30-pound satellite. 15 kilos max, right? 2.2 pounds,
Yeah.
33 pounds max. So that's a substantive piece of metal you guys are going to sling up. What kind of
Yeah.
plants do you think you'll fly if you had to decide today, based on what the work that's already been done with your high altitude balloon missions? What species are you leaning towards for your first flight?
So initially we were looking at tobacco, which is we ended up abandoning this idea because it's not very, a very useful plant. We were initially looking at it because it's very easy to genetically modify, and we had some people in the biology department that were going to help us with that. But now we're actually looking at a different plant called alfalfa. It's very nutrient rich. They're small and they grow relatively quickly. So we were looking at testing those and making it optimal for those kinds of plants.
Right, right. So you seem to be thriving in this. I'm not really at a high school. I'm just a university kid who happens to not have a high school diploma, right? So this in
Yeah.
this environment, it's very good for you. Do you miss any of what you think might have been the traditional high school trappings, like the teams and the dances and the socializing, or are you very content to be in classrooms basically with university kids?
So we at FAU High we do have like these social events
Yeah.
like dances and whatnot. I'm honestly I think what really got me for FAU High was the university classes. I think that being able to learn as deep as I want is a huge benefit for me. I like in a regular high school you have to take AP classes. There's not even like I think for almost half my classes right now there's no AP equivalent. So I'm just really I really wanted to be able to go really deep into these things that I enjoy, such as mathematics and computer science. And I don't
Right.
think the traditional high school would have been able to accommodate that. So
So, so your
not
only
really.
limit is what the university can offer you, and
Yep.
and also a good factor for parents and students. If you're accepted to FAU, there's no cost, right?
Yeah.
There's no cost at the high school, so that's a 4-year college degree, basically free.
Yeah, it's a really good plan. Daniel, obviously you have a lot going on. You said that, right? Like you have a lot going on. So I always am interested in how students of your age, are finding the balance, right? So how do you find time to get all of these things done, keep your studies elevated, and also find some time to yourself? So what do you do for that balance?
So I know I'm at school a ridiculous number of hours, and I do a lot of things. I did manage to leave Mondays free in my schedule. So every 3-day weekend, I have time for myself and my family, and time to do things that I love, like aerospace, like studying mathematics on my own. Um, I think when you love what you do, it's not as much of a problem
Mhm.
as if you don't. It doesn't really feel like I'm working and being overworked. It feels like I'm doing something that I enjoy. So I think that really contributes to it as well.
Mhm. And but I mean, like as far as with your social network, is it also people who are interested in the same things? Like, do you find that you
Yeah,
get to engage with other people as well?
yeah.
So,
I meet a lot of people in my classes.
okay, good,
Um,
good. And then, and oftentimes too, I think that we forget that even universities, there's quite a social life there, and it doesn't mean that you can't be part of that if you are. So that's good. Um, well, as we kind of are heading towards the end of the interview, I am wondering what you've been finding to be either the most challenging part of being dual enrolled as like a university and with all the things that you're doing, but alongside of those challenges, you know, I know you said the benefit was that you get to pursue what you love, but like if there's anything else you want to add about those challenges and benefits, I think it helps our listeners to realize when they're starting to think about schools, but also, what they're thinking about from a career path.
so in a dual enrolled environment, like compared to a regular high school, the regular high school provides you opportunities for clubs. They give you a bunch of list of classes that you have to take. And I think at a university environment, it's more up to you, right? You choose what classes you want. You choose your major. You choose everything
I mean,
basically.
you could go at night, right? If you wanted, like you're not
Yeah,
limited. Is the high school allowing you to pick the regular college schedule too?
yeah. I
Come
make my own
on, that's
schedule.
awesome. Yeah.
I'm actually at school at like 7 p.m. on
Yeah.
Tuesdays and Thursdays
Yeah, right,
due to
right.
calculus. Yeah.
But that's
And
actually better for
yeah.
people your age. Yeah.
I can also take graduate classes. I'm taking a graduate math class next semester called Abstract Algebra. We have a lot of options here, and I think if you're overwhelmed by a lot of options, it's something to consider. But I think a lot of people can thrive in this kind of environment.
It probably speaks to your ability to make choices, right? And
Mhm.
prioritize your life. And you probably are pretty good with time management. Is that a fair statement?
Yeah,
And it's something you've
you
had
get
to
it.
practice, right? Out of
Right.
necessity.
Well, that's what I was trying to get at before. Like, how do you balance, right? Because that managing of the time can be very difficult, but you have to be
Mhm.
mature, and I think you are to be able to do that.
Right. So let me ask this. What's going to happen after let's say you finish with FAU, you've got a mathematics degree or comp sci, computer science, something on that lane. What do you see as, and of course you're free to change your mind down the road, but if you had to pick today, what's the next step in your progression after FAU?
So I'd probably go to grad school. And the reason for this is I want to study AI and cybersecurity, like cryptography, this kind of area, right? And I want to be able to understand the very deep mathematics behind this area. It's really what interests me. And I think in order to get that far, I need to continue going and learning about it. Yeah, it's really exciting. And
Did you
I
get the
think,
thumbs up? I'm sorry, I'm just
sorry.
curious there.
Yeah,
We had like a little thumbs up on the screen. I was like, did
yeah,
AI just hear you say that? Because no one touched it.
No, I
Just
didn't do
so
it.
you know,
Yeah.
no one
yeah.
touched it.
Yeah. So,
It's in the algorithm.
yeah, folks listening, your computer is always listening to you. So
Yeah.
hello. And
Wow.
hey Google and Siri, they're
That
all
was
listening. And
crazy.
Alexa, they're all waiting.
Oh
Yeah.
man. All right. Well, Daniel, like obviously we always kind of end with like that advice or whatever, but I think you have also not only advice for our listeners, but I really want you to be able to kind of tell us more about your, where people could find your game when it's ready or like where they can connect with you. So anything that you want to promote about the work that you're doing, now's a good time, as well as,
Yeah.
any advices you have for the people behind you.
So, for my aerospace game that's currently in development, release is probably a couple months or a while down the line. I will probably release that later on because we're not quite there yet for a release. Um, just keep your eyes peeled for that if you're interested, especially
What's
for
it going to be
educators.
called?
I think it can be useful. We're looking at a name, the Wolfpack Challenge, suggested by Mr. Simmons. To
Okay. Well, I mean,
It's a good name, yeah.
if you want to share your LinkedIn or wherever where people can keep in touch with you to be
Yeah.
able to look out
I
for that.
I would like to propose this, Daniel. I think your game, a great way to beta test it would be to roll it out at our conference this year and have a workshop
Yeah.
where teachers and students could sign up. And if a lot of people sign up, we'll just make 2 blocks of it. And then you
Mhm.
could say, bring your laptop or your device or have it online platform. I don't, your call, but that would be a great way to get a lot of data from users that know a little something about
And I don't
CubeSats.
think it should be the Wolfpack
Yeah.
challenge. I'm sorry. It doesn't give enough about what it is. Like, unless you're going to say the
Well, if you say
Wolfpack CubeSat development,
yes,
maybe. But I like the idea of the CubeSat challenge. And you can have a little Wolfpack there if you want to. I'm just saying,
you
like,
could call it the whiskey or something, like the Wolfpack Student Challenge
the
and working.
whiskey. Okay.
Yeah,
Maybe it's part of your contest when they go to the conference. Maybe you ask them to submit a name. Maybe, I don't know, just
Yeah.
some ideas. Anyway, any advice for those behind you as we wrap up for today?
Yeah, I think that pursuing education, particularly pursuing education that you love, is very important. And finding a way to apply that in a real world area like aerospace is also great. It's been great for me. It's gotten me many places. So I highly suggest trying to look at that, trying to get that for yourself, and seeing where you can apply your passion areas in places like aerospace, and do some cool stuff while you're at it. So.
yes.
Well, we appreciate you giving up some of your busy time on the weekend with us, and it was a pleasure catching up. And we'll keep on the lookout. And if you are interested in hearing more about his game, come to the Small Set Conference. Of course, you heard the ad at the beginning, and check Daniel Portas Levy out on LinkedIn and follow him. He's going to be doing amazing things. Thanks, Daniel.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.